The oldest data crystal in the Grand Archive had not been touched in 600 years. Dust covered its surface like gray snow. Sophie cleaned it carefully with her sleeve and placed it into the reader. She was alone in the archive. Her colleagues had gone home hours ago. They called her obsessed. They called her foolish. A young Relani historian wasting her career on fairy tales. But Sophie believed the humans were real. The crystal flickered to life. Damaged footage played on the screen. The recording was 4,000 cycles old, captured during something called the Siege of Meridian Station. The quality was terrible. Static covered most of the image, but through the noise, Sophie could see them. Creatures with 2 arms and 2 legs, soft skin, no scales or armor. They moved through a battlefield filled with Keth drones, those nightmare insects that consumed worlds. The humans were small compared to the drones. They should have died in seconds. They did not die. Sophie watched a human soldier pick up a fallen weapon and charge directly at a Keth warrior 3 times its size. The footage cut to static before she could see what happened next. She leaned back in her chair. Her heart was beating fast. This was proof, real proof. Humans existed. They fought the Keth and survived. An alarm shattered the silence. Red lights flashed across the archive ceiling. Sophie jumped to her feet. Emergency broadcasts filled every screen in the building. She ran to the nearest terminal and read the message. The Keth had returned. After 4,000 years of silence, the swarm was moving again. They had already consumed 3 outer colonies. Billions dead in days. The Galactic Council was calling an emergency session. Sophie grabbed her data crystal and ran. The council chamber was chaos. Representatives from 100 species shouted over each other. Fear filled the massive room like poison gas. Sophie pushed through the crowd, trying to reach the central platform. She had studied the Keth her entire life. She knew what they were, a species without mercy or reason. They did not negotiate. They did not stop. They consumed everything in their path and moved on. The last time they appeared, they destroyed half the galaxy before something stopped them. Something the old records called humans. The council speaker, a tall Vethani with silver scales, called for order. The room fell silent. "We have no defense against this enemy," the speaker said. "Our fleets cannot stop them. Our weapons barely slow them. We need solutions." Representatives offered ideas. Build bigger ships. Create new weapons, form alliances with neutral species. Every suggestion was met with the same response: not enough time. Sophie raised her hand. The speaker looked at her with confusion. Historians did not speak at military sessions, but something in Sophie's eyes made him pause. "You have something to share." Sophie walked to the center platform. 100 alien faces stared at her. She felt small and afraid. But she also felt certain. "There is a species," she said. "They stopped the Keth before, 4,000 years ago at a place called Meridian Station." Whispers filled the chamber. "The humans," someone said with a mocking laugh. "She believes in the humans." "I have footage," Sophie said. She held up her data crystal. "Damaged but real, humans existed. They fought the Keth and won." The speaker shook his head. "Humans are myths. Stories invented by ancient cultures to explain their survival. There is no evidence they ever existed." "This is evidence." Sophie connected the crystal to the main display. The damaged footage played across the chamber's massive screen. Static and noise, but also shapes, figures fighting in the darkness. "This proves nothing," the speaker said. "We cannot base our survival on legends." Sophie felt despair rising in her chest. They would not listen. They would rather die than believe. A voice spoke from the back of the chamber. "I believe her." Everyone turned. An old Dravani admiral stood near the exit. His name was Herc. He had commanded fleets for longer than most species lived. His scales were faded with age, but his eyes were sharp. "My grandfather served at Meridian Station," Herc said. "He told me stories. He said the humans were real. He said they saved his life." "Stories from a dying old soldier," the speaker said. "Perhaps," Herc walked slowly toward the platform. But my grandfather also gave me something else. Coordinates, the location of the human homeworld, a planet called Earth. The chamber fell completely silent. I kept those coordinates for 70 years, Herc continued. I never used them because I never needed them, but I kept them just in case. He looked at Sovi. Something passed between them, understanding, hope. I have a ship, Herc said. I need a crew willing to chase ghosts. The journey will take us. Through dead space, we may find nothing, we may die trying. Sovi stepped forward. I will go. Herc nodded. Then we leave tonight. The Keth are moving fast. Your homeworld falls in 90 rotations. We do not have time to waste. The speaker raised his hand. This is foolishness. You chase myths while our people die. Better to chase myths, Herc said, than to wait for death with empty hands. He turned and walked toward the exit. Sovi followed. Behind them, the council continued to argue. They would argue until the Keth arrived. They would argue until their world burned. But somewhere in the darkness of space, maybe, hopefully, the humans were waiting. And Sovi intended to find them. 17 days into forbidden space, the stars began to look wrong. Sovi stood at the observation window of the Quiet Watcher, watching constellations she did not recognize slide past the glass. The ship was small. A reconnaissance vessel designed for speed and silence, not comfort. The crew numbered only 12, all volunteers who believed in ghosts. Or at least they believed in Admiral Herc. The old Dravani had not slept since they left Council space. He spent his hours studying ancient star charts, comparing them to current readings, adjusting their course by fractions. His grandfather's coordinates were 4,000 years old. Stars moved in that time. Systems died. The path was not simple. Sovi joined him at the navigation console. How much further? She asked. 3 more days, Herc said. Maybe 4. The charts are unclear about the final approach. Do you really believe they are there, the humans? Herc was quiet for a moment. His old eyes stared at the stars. My grandfather was not a man who told lies, he said finally. When he spoke of humans, his voice changed. He sounded afraid and grateful, both at once. He paused. I have commanded fleets, I have fought wars, I have seen brave soldiers do impossible things, but nothing I saw ever made me sound like my grandfather did when he talked about humans. The ship trembled slightly. They were passing through an asteroid field, remnants of a planet that no longer existed. What happened here? Sovi asked. Keth, Herc pointed at the navigation display. This system used to contain 4 inhabited worlds, population of 6 billion combined. The Keth consumed them during their last expansion. And the humans stopped them. Someone did, the Keth reached this point and went no further. They turned around and went silent for 4,000 years. Herc looked at her. Either the humans stopped them or something worse did. Personally, I prefer to believe in humans. They continued through the dead system. Sovi saw more evidence of destruction. Broken stations floating in the void. Ships torn apart and left to drift. Whatever happened here was violent and total. But she also saw something else. There, she pointed at the screen. What is that? Herc adjusted the sensors. A structure appeared in the darkness. It was wrapped around an asteroid, metal and stone combined. Defensive weapons pointed outward, long dead. The design was strange, blocky and practical without any elegance. That is not Council construction, Herc said softly. They scanned the structure. No life signs, no power. It had been abandoned for millennia, but the construction told a story. Someone had built a fortress here. Someone had planned to fight. The weapons are pointed toward the inner galaxy, Sovi noticed. They were defending against something coming from our direction. Defending this system, or defending whatever lay beyond it. They left the dead station behind and continued onward. On the 19th day, they reached Sol. The system was unremarkable at first glance. A yellow star, 8 planets, nothing special. The Quiet Watcher approached slowly, sensors searching for any sign of life. They found nothing. No orbital stations, No communication signals, no satellites. The third planet, Earth, hung blue and green in the void, apparently empty. Oceans and continents and clouds, but no cities visible from orbit. Forests covered everything. It looks abandoned, Sophie said. Her heart sank. They had come so far for nothing. Appearances can deceive, Herc replied. Take us closer, standard approach vector. The ship descended toward Earth. They passed the orbit of the single large moon, still nothing. The planet grew larger in their windows. Then the communication system activated on its own. Static filled the bridge, followed by a voice. It spoke in a language no one recognized. Then it switched. Another language, another. It cycled through dozens before settling on standard galactic. Unknown vessel, you have entered protected space. Please state your identity and purpose. The voice was calm, polite even, but Sophie noticed something in the background of the transmission. Subtle hum, the sound of weapons charging. Herc leaned toward the communication panel. This is Admiral Herc of the Galactic Council vessel Quiet Watcher. We come seeking the species known as humans. We need your help. Silence. The seconds stretched like hours. Sophie held her breath. The entire crew stood frozen, waiting. Finally, the voice returned. You are the first visitors in 4,000 years. We stopped answering calls from the galaxy a long time ago. A pause. What makes you think we will answer now? The Keth have returned, Herc said simply. They are consuming worlds again. Billions have already died. Billions more will follow. Another long silence. We know, the voice said. We have been watching. Then you know we need help. The Council has no defense against them. You stopped them before, you can stop them again. Perhaps, the voice carried something heavy. Weariness maybe, or memory. Perhaps not. Stopping the Keth cost us greatly. We chose silence afterward. We chose peace. Please, Sophie spoke without thinking. Please, my people are going to die. Everyone is going to die. The silence this time felt different, softer. You carry fear in your voice, young one, and hope, a dangerous combination. The transmission hummed quietly. Very well, you may land. Coordinates are being sent to your navigation system. We will meet you on the surface. The channel closed. Herc looked at Sophie. His old face showed something she had never seen before, uncertainty mixed with wonder. Well, he said quietly, it appears the ghosts are real. The Quiet Watcher descended toward Earth. Below them, a world that the galaxy had forgotten waited in silence. And somewhere on that quiet planet, the humans were preparing to receive their first visitors in 4 millennia. Sophie watched the clouds approach and felt history shifting beneath her feet. The shuttle touched down in a valley surrounded by mountains. Snow covered the highest peaks. A river ran through the center, cold and clear. Trees older than spaceflight stood silent around the landing zone. Sophie stepped outside and breathed alien air for the first time in her life. It smelled like life, green things growing, water flowing, animals moving through distant forests. Earth was not dead, it was simply quiet. A path led from the landing zone toward a settlement built into the mountainside. The buildings blended with the rock, almost invisible. Unless you looked carefully, whoever lived here did not want to be seen from above. Figures emerged from the settlement, humans walking toward them. Sophie had studied images and recordings for years, but seeing them in person was different. They were smaller than she expected, shorter than most council species. Their skin came in different shades, brown and pale and everything between. They wore simple clothing, practical rather than decorative. They did not look like monsters. One human walked ahead of the others. She was old, her hair gray and white, her face lined with age. But she moved with confidence, each step deliberate. Her eyes were dark and steady. I am Dara, she said. I speak for this community. Welcome to Earth. Herc bowed slightly. I am Admiral Herc. This is Sophie, our historian. We are grateful for your hospitality. Dara studied them both. Her gaze was uncomfortable. It felt like she was reading things they had not said. Come, she said finally. We have much to discuss. They walked through the settlement. Sovi noticed details: children playing in a courtyard, adults working in gardens, simple technology mixed with advanced systems hidden beneath surfaces. The humans lived modestly, but their equipment was sophisticated. Dara led them to a large building carved directly into the mountain. Inside, a circular room held seats arranged around a central fire. The flames crackled and danced, providing warmth and light. They sat. "You want us to fight the Keth again?" Dara said. It was not a question. "Yes," Herc replied. "The Council has no defense against them. Our fleets cannot stop their advance." "We know. We have been watching since they emerged from dormancy." Dara stared into the fire. "We knew this day would come eventually. They never truly sleep. They simply wait." "Then you will help us?" Dara was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was heavy. 4,000 years ago, we fought the Keth. The war lasted generations. We lost billions of our people, entire colonies erased. We developed weapons that horrified us. We changed ourselves in ways that cannot be undone. She looked at Herc. We won, but the cost broke something inside us. We decided afterward that we would not fight other people's wars. We stopped answering calls from the galaxy. We watched from afar as species rose and fell. We saw empires build and crumble. We did not interfere. "Why?" Sovi asked. "Because every time we helped, we made things worse." Dara's eyes were sad. "Other species became dependent on us. They stopped developing their own defenses. They expected humans to solve their problems, and when we could not solve everything, they hated us for it." She stood and walked to a window. Outside, the valley stretched peaceful and green. "We are protectors by nature. We cannot watch suffering without wanting to help. But we learned that constant protection creates weakness. The galaxy needed to grow strong on its own, so we left." Herc spoke carefully. "The Keth do not allow for growth. They only allow for death. If they are not stopped, there will be no galaxy left to grow strong." "I know." "Then you understand why we came." "I understand why you came." Dara turned to face them. "I am not certain you understand what you are asking." She walked back to her seat. Her old hands rested on her knees. "If we fight the Keth, we will not fight as the Council expects. We will not send fleets to defend every world. We will not coordinate with your commanders. We will choose a single point, a line that cannot be crossed, and we will hold it." "One line?" Herc frowned. "The Keth attack everywhere at once. One line cannot stop them." "One line is all we have." Dara's voice hardened. "Our population is small. Our military strength is limited. We have spent millennia focused on peace, not war. What remains of our fighting force is enough to hold one position, no more." Sovi leaned forward. "What position?" "Rithani Prime, your homeworld young historian. The Keth advance puts it directly in their path. If Rithani falls, the core systems are exposed. Everything falls afterward." "You would defend my world." "We would buy time." Dara looked at her with something almost gentle. "Time for evacuations, time for the Council to organize, time for the galaxy to find its courage. That is all we can offer." Herc stood. "I must report to the Council. They will want guarantees, strategies, plans." "They will want control," Dara said. "They will not have it. Humans fight our own way. The Council can accept our help on our terms or face the Keth alone." The fire crackled in the silence. "How soon can you be ready?" Herc asked. Dara smiled slightly. It was not a happy expression. "We have been ready for 4,000 years. We simply hoped we would never need to be." She rose and walked toward a door at the back of the room. "Rest tonight. Tomorrow we will show you what humanity became during the last war, and then you will understand why we chose silence." The door closed behind her. Sovi sat in the firelight, watching the flames dance. Somewhere above her, past the mountains and the sky and the endless void, the Keth were coming. And somewhere on this quiet planet, weapons older than the Council were waking from their long sleep. She did not know if she should feel hope or terror. Perhaps she thought both were the same thing. 3 kilometers beneath the ocean, the elevator finally stopped. Sovi had been descending for almost an hour. The pressure outside the reinforced capsule was enough to crush any council vessel instantly. Yet humans had built here, had hidden here, for thousands of years. The doors opened onto a cavern so large it hurt to look at. Machines filled the space. Some were the size of buildings. Others stretched so far into the darkness that Sovi could not see where they ended. Everything was silent except for a low hum, like a sleeping giant breathing slowly. Dara walked beside her. The old woman moved through the facility like she knew every corner. "This is the Pacific Arsenal," Dara said. "One of 7 hidden across Earth and our colonies. When we chose peace, we did not choose weakness. We simply put our weapons to sleep." Rows of sealed chambers lined one wall. Sovi counted hundreds. Each chamber was marked with numbers and symbols she did not recognize. "What are those?" "Marines." Dara paused before one chamber. Through the small window, Sovi saw a human figure suspended in blue light. "Our soldiers. They volunteered for long sleep after the last war. They asked to be woken only if the Keth returned. They have been sleeping for 4,000 years. Their bodies have, their minds." Dara touched the chamber gently. "We gave them dreams, good dreams, peaceful lives they never had while awake. It seemed the least we could do." They continued walking. Sovi noticed human soldiers standing at regular intervals. They wore dark uniforms and carried weapons she did not recognize. Their faces were calm but alert. "These are the awake ones," Dara explained. "We always kept some ready just in case." One soldier turned to look at Sovi as she passed. His eyes were strange. The pupils seemed to shift and adjust constantly, like a camera lens focusing and refocusing. "Enhanced vision," Dara said, noticing her stare. "Along with enhanced hearing, reflexes, bone density, cellular regeneration. We modified ourselves during the war. It was necessary to survive." "You changed your own bodies." "We changed everything." Dara stopped walking. They had reached a massive door at the end of the cavern. "During the last war, we learned that traditional warfare could not stop the Keth. They bred faster than we could kill them. Every battle we won cost us soldiers we could not replace." She placed her hand on a scanner. The door began to open. "So we developed new strategies, new weapons, new soldiers." Beyond the door was a hangar. Ships filled the space, row after row after row. They were ugly by galactic standards. No curves, no aesthetic consideration, sharp angles and heavy armor and visible weapon mounts. "These do not look like council vessels," Herc said. He had been quiet since they arrived, studying everything with his old soldier's eyes. "They are not designed to look pretty," Dara replied. "They are designed to kill." She led them to the nearest ship. Up close, Sovi could see the scars on its hull, repair work layered over repair work. This vessel had fought battles and survived. "During the last war, we learned something about the Keth," Dara said. "They fear nothing. Pain does not stop them. Death does not stop them. But there is one thing that slows them down." "What?" "Confusion." Dara looked at the ship with something like affection. "The Keth expect their enemies to flee. They expect survival instinct. When we stopped running and started charging toward them, they did not know how to react. When we rammed their hive ships and boarded them with small teams, they hesitated. They could not process creatures that chose death to hurt them." "That sounds insane," Sovi said. "It is insane," Dara smiled grimly. "Humans are very good at insanity when necessary. We can convince ourselves that any sacrifice is worthwhile if the cause is right. It is perhaps our greatest strength and our greatest weakness." Herc was studying the ships with new understanding in his eyes. "You do not fight to survive," he said slowly. "You fight to make the enemy pay, even if you die doing it." "Especially if we die doing it," Dara nodded. "The Keth consume, they take and take and take. They expect their victims to protect themselves, to run, to hide. They do not expect prey that bites back. That wounds them even while being devoured." She turned to face them both. This is what you are asking for, not soldiers, not fleets. You are asking for humans, and humans fight differently than anyone else in the galaxy. Will it work? Sovi asked. Can you stop them again? We can hurt them, we can slow them, we can buy time. Dara looked around the hangar at the sleeping fleet. But we cannot defeat them permanently. Last time we drove them back to their home space and contained them. We did not destroy them. That would have required genocide, and we could not bring ourselves to do it. They are mindless killers, Herc said. They are a species fighting for survival, same as us. They expand or they die. We understand that instinct very well, Dara sighed. Perhaps we should have destroyed them. Perhaps we were weak. But choosing mercy even toward enemies is part of what makes us human. We cannot abandon that even when it costs us. The lights in the hangar were growing brighter. Systems were activating. Somewhere in the facility, the sleeping Marines were being woken from their 4,000-year dreams. Dara looked at Sovi with tired eyes. You asked if we can stop them. The truth is, we do not know. We only know that we will try. We will stand at Rithani Prime and hold the line. What happens after that is beyond our control. Why do it then? Sovi asked. Why risk everything for people who forgot you existed? Dara was quiet for a long moment. Because someone has to, she said finally. Because children are dying in the dark and we have the power to help. Because standing aside while evil spreads is itself a form of evil. These are the things we tell ourselves. Whether they are wisdom or foolishness, I cannot say anymore. She turned and walked toward the exit. The fleet launches in 48 hours. You should return to your council and tell them what is coming. Prepare your people for evacuation. When humans go to war, the battlefield is no place for bystanders. The door closed behind her. Sovi stood in the hangar, surrounded by sleeping warships and ancient weapons. Above her on the surface, on distant worlds, the Keth were coming. And here, beneath the ocean, humanity was waking up. She hoped it would be enough. The Keth arrived at Rithani Prime like a plague made of metal and hunger. Sovi watched from an observation platform on a council cruiser positioned at safe distance. The council had sent observers. Recorders, they wanted to document whatever happened next. Most of them expected to record a defeat. The swarm filled the view screen. Thousands of vessels. Hive ships the size of moons surrounded by clouds of smaller attack craft. They moved as one organism, spreading across the system like oil on water. Between the swarm and Rithani Prime, 47 human ships waited. Sovi counted them again, 47, against thousands. The numbers were impossible. The human fleet held formation near the planet's largest moon. They were not running. They were not trying to flank or maneuver. They simply waited. Admiral Herc stood beside her. His old face was pale. "This is suicide," he whispered. The communication channels crackled. A human voice spoke across all frequencies, broadcast to every vessel in the system. Council, Keth, and anyone else listening. "Attention, Keth Fleet. This is Commander Ray of the Earth Defense Force. You are approaching protected space. This line is held. Turn back now." The Keth did not respond. They never responded. They simply continued forward. "Very well," Ray said. Her voice carried no fear. "Let us begin." The human ships moved. They did not move like council vessels. They did not maintain formations or coordinate tactical patterns. They charged directly at the swarm, all 47 ships accelerating towards certain death. Sovi felt her heart stop. The Keth swarm reacted with confusion. Their attack patterns were designed for enemies that fled, that tried to survive. These creatures were coming toward them. The swarm hesitated for a fraction of a second. That hesitation cost them. The first human ships reached the outer edge of the swarm and detonated, not because they were destroyed, because they chose to detonate. Each ship triggered its reactor core at the moment of maximum impact, taking hundreds of Keth vessels with it. Sovi screamed, but the remaining human ships did not stop. They plunged deeper into the swarm, weapons firing in all directions. Missiles launched in waves. Energy beams cut through Keth hulls like fire through paper. A human cruiser was surrounded by 40 Keth attack craft. It should have been torn apart in seconds. Instead, it accelerated toward the nearest hive ship, ignoring the smaller vessels chewing at its hull. It struck the hive ship at full speed and kept going, boring into the massive structure like a drill. "What are they doing?" Herc asked. His voice was shaking. "Boarding," Sovi said. She had read about this in the old records. She had not believed it was real. Transports detached from human vessels and attached themselves to Keth hive ships. Marines poured out. Sovi could see them on the sensor feeds. Small figures against massive alien structures. They should have been slaughtered instantly. They were not slaughtered. The Keth drones on the hive ships outnumbered the Marines 50-1, but the Marines fought with a violence that defied reason. They did not retreat. They did not take cover. They moved forward constantly, killing everything in their path. One Marine was impaled by a Keth warrior's claw. The sensor feed showed her reaching up, grabbing the claw and pulling herself closer to the Keth so she could detonate the explosives strapped to her chest. Another Marine lost an arm to a drone attack. He picked up his weapon with his remaining hand and kept fighting. He killed 7 more drones before blood loss finally stopped him. The Keth hive ships began going dark. One by one, their signals vanished. The Marines were killing them from the inside. Commander Ray's ship was at the center of the battle. It had taken more damage than any vessel should survive. Sections were venting atmosphere. Fire burned across its hull, but its weapons kept firing. "This is Ray to all units," her voice came over the channel. "Push forward, do not stop, make them remember this day." A Keth command ship, the largest in the swarm, turned its full attention to Ray's vessel. Hundreds of attack craft swarmed toward her. Heavy weapons charged. Ray's ship accelerated directly at it. "Commander, pull back," Herc shouted into the communication panel. "You cannot survive that." "Not trying to survive, Admiral?" Ray's voice was calm, almost peaceful. "Just trying to win." Her ship struck the command ship at maximum velocity. The explosion was visible from the observation platform. A new sun bloomed in the darkness, consuming both vessels and everything around them. The Keth swarm stopped moving. Without their command ship, they lost coordination. The remaining attack craft scattered in all directions. Some continued fighting. Most began to flee. The human ships pursued. 23 remained from the original 47. Damaged, burning, held together by nothing but willpower, they chased the fleeing Keth to the edge of the system and beyond. Hours later, it was over. The Keth were gone, scattered into deep space. They would regroup eventually. They would return someday, but today they had been broken. Sovi sat down slowly. Her legs would not support her anymore. Herc was speaking into the communication panel, relaying what they had witnessed to the council. His voice cracked as he described the battle. The observers around them were crying. Some were laughing, some were doing both. A communication came through from the human fleet. Not Commander Ray, she was dead. A new voice, quieter, tired. "This is Lieutenant Patel, assuming command of remaining Earth forces. The line is held. Rithani Prime is secure." "Your losses," Herc started. "We know our losses," Patel paused. "We have had worse days." The channel closed. Sovi looked out at the debris field that filled the space where the battle had occurred. Human ships and Keth vessels mixed together in death. Thousands of lives ended in the span of hours. And yet behind her, Rithani Prime still turned. Its cities still glowed with light. Its people still lived. The humans had drawn their line, and they had held it. The cost was terrible, but the cost of failure would have been worse. Sovi understood now why humanity had chosen silence. Fighting like this, dying like this, it could not be sustained. It was a fire that consumed everything, including those who wielded it. But when the darkness came, when nothing else could stand against it, the fire was there. And the galaxy would never forget what it had seen today. 1 year after the Battle of Rithani Prime, The Grand Archive was full of visitors. Sovi walked through halls that used to be empty and silent. Now they buzzed with activity. Scholars from 100 species studied data crystals. Students gathered in lecture halls. The archive had become the most visited place in council space. Everyone wanted to learn about humans. Sovi reached the central display chamber. A massive holographic projection filled the room, showing Earth as it truly appeared. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds drifting over mountains and forests. A quiet planet that housed 8 billion people who had chosen peace until peace was no longer possible. Behind her, representatives from the Galactic Council were gathering. They had requested a formal briefing. Everyone wanted something from humanity now. Sovi had become the liaison to humanity, a title she never expected. Role she was still learning. She stepped onto the presentation platform and faced the crowd. 1 year ago, many of you believed humans were myths, stories invented by ancient cultures, fairy tales. She paused. Now you know the truth. Humans are real. They saved Rithani Prime. They broke the Keth Advance, and they are watching us. Murmurs filled the chamber. Since the battle, I have received 4,000 diplomatic requests, trade agreements, military alliances, technology sharing, settlement rights. Everyone wants access to Earth. She brought up a new display. Images of the 23 surviving human ships, now repaired and returned to their hidden hangars. The humans have declined most of these requests. They have sent small delegations to share medical knowledge, agricultural techniques, methods for cleaning polluted environments. They refuse military partnerships. They will not share weapons technology. A Vithani representative raised a hand. Why not? We are allies now. We fought together. You watched, Sovi said carefully. Humans fought, they died. That is not the same thing. The chamber fell silent. I spent many months on Earth after the battle. I spoke with Dara, their leader. I asked her the same question you are asking now. Why help us but refuse alliance? Sovi remembered that conversation. Sitting by a fire in the mountain settlement, watching snow fall outside while Dara spoke in her tired, careful way. She told me that humanity learned hard lessons during the last war. Every time they became protectors, they created dependency. Other species stopped developing their own defenses. They expected humans to solve every problem. And when humans could not solve everything, they were blamed, hated even. So they hid for 4,000 years, the Vithani said, and now they want to hide again. No, something has changed. Sovi brought up another image. A human ship docked at a council station, representatives meeting for the first time. They have chosen to remain present, but quietly, as neighbors, not guardians. She looked across the crowd. Dara told me that the galaxy must learn to defend itself. Humanity cannot carry that burden alone. They will be there for the battles that truly matter, the ones where everything hangs in balance. But the daily work of building strength, of preparing for threats that falls to us. Admiral Herc spoke from the back of the chamber. The Keth will return. Intelligence suggests they are regrouping in deep space. What then? Then we face them, with whatever allies we have, with whatever strength we have built. Sovi paused. Perhaps the humans will help again. Perhaps they will not. We cannot depend on them to save us every time. That is exactly what they are trying to teach us. The briefing continued for another hour. Questions and answers, politics and strategies, the endless business of governing a galaxy that had suddenly become much smaller. When it was over, Sovi walked alone through the archive. She found herself in the historical section. Ancient records, the damaged data crystal that had started everything sat in a preservation case, carefully cleaned and protected. A young Rilani student approached her. His scales were pale with youth, his eyes wide with curiosity. Are you Sovi, the one who found them? I am. Is it true what they say about humans, that they laughed while fighting, that they kept attacking even after they were dying? Sovi thought about the battle footage she had watched, the Marines boarding Keth Hive ships, Commander Ray accelerating toward her death without hesitation. Yes, she said, it is true. Why would anyone do that? Fight when they know they cannot survive? Sovi considered the question carefully. Because they believe some things are worth more than survival. Because they cannot watch others suffer without acting. Because choosing to fight, even knowing the cost, is part of who they are. The student looked confused. That sounds broken. Perhaps, Sovi smiled slightly. Or perhaps it is what makes them stronger than anyone else. They carry fear like everyone does, but they do not let fear stop them. They walk forward into the darkness because the alternative is watching the darkness win. She handed the student a data crystal from her bag. Fresh recordings, real human history, not myths. Start here, she said. Start at the beginning, learn about their wars and their peace, their cruelty and their kindness, their terrible rage and their bottomless compassion, all of it together. Then you will begin to understand. The student took the crystal carefully, like it was precious. What should I look for? Sovi remembered Dara's face by the firelight. The weariness in her eyes mixed with something else. Hope, perhaps, or love, for a galaxy that had forgotten them, for species that had never known them. Look for the contradictions, Sovi said. Humans are gentle and violent, selfish and generous, afraid and brave, all at the same time. They contain everything. That is their secret. That is what makes them human. The student nodded and walked away, data crystal clutched in his hands. Sovi returned to the window overlooking the city. Ships moved through the sky. People of every species walked the streets below, life continuing, the galaxy turning. Somewhere out there, beyond the stars she could see, the humans were watching. Quiet neighbors keeping old weapons ready, sleeping soldiers dreaming of peace, a species that had chosen silence but had not forgotten how to fight. And somewhere in the darkness, the Keth were waiting. The next war would come eventually, perhaps in a year, perhaps in 1,000 years. When it did, Sovi hoped the galaxy would be ready. She hoped they would not need to call on myths again. But if they did, she knew the myths would answer. They always had before.